Hey folks, Jack Spirko here with another survival podcast video. Actually, I'm going to reposition the camera just in a second and turn this into a tabletop review because I'm going to be reviewing for you the Spartan knife by Cold Steel today. But one of its big features is what's called a pocket open draw. I think that's what they call it anyway. It's kind of cool, and I want to go ahead and get that out of the way at the beginning. And I've got the knife, and I mentioned in my last video I've been carrying this knife. I'm not in love with this knife. I'm really not. It's not going to be the greatest review in the world. The cat scratching her collar. Cut that out. It's not going to be the greatest review in the world as far as, hey, go get one of these right now type things. But it's a good knife, and it's got some good characteristics to it. But it's not a great EDC knife. It has good points and bad points. I do think it makes a good defensive knife. If you want a defensive weapon, it's hard to beat for a folder. And the way you draw it is you grab it, and this takes a little bit of practice, but once you get the thing down, man, it's easy. You grab it, you draw it out, and it's open. And as you can see, it's a honking hunk of steel, man. That is not something that you would like, put between your ribs. Let's be honest. It's got a great handle, and we'll go ahead and reposition now, and I'll tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly about the Cold Steel Spartan. Okay, so kind of first and foremost is the shape of the handle. And this was actually designed to be kind of a representation of the Spartan short sword, and it's very similar in its shape to exactly that, the short sword of the Spartans. It also has a very close resemblance to something else that Cold Steel makes that I actually like a lot more. Check this out. This is not a Gurkha kukri, which is their expensive version. This is the low-cost kukri machete by Cold Steel. I like this. I really like this. I'm not going to do a review on it today because I want to take this out into the bush, and I want to do a review and actually show you what this tool will do for you. I think this belongs in your kit for your bushcrafting. I think it's a great tool. But if you look at the blade profile, they're very similar. And I looked at it, and since I liked the machete so much, I thought, man, I'd love basically a folding machete is what I saw this thing as being. Let me tell you what the issues with it are. The issues are that curved blade over that short distance is just not very practical. It just doesn't really fit in with the reason you carry a knife for EDC, for everyday carry. If you are attacked, make no mistake, if you have to rely on a knife, maybe you can't carry a gun, you can't get to your gun, what you've chosen not to draw your gun, but you're going to draw a knife, which I think is a mistake. If I have a choice between a knife and a gun, I'm going to draw the gun every time in a defensive situation. But for whatever reason, you have to draw this. When you draw that out, and you've got that gripped in your hand, you've got a formidable weapon. It is razor sharp out of the box, and if you do your job and keep it sharp, it's going to stay sharp. It will absolutely cut, slice, and stab like nothing else. It is a long blade with a really thick piece of steel, thick across the spine and thick this way as well. It would do a tremendous amount of damage. Even in a kind of a defensive mode, an arm's coming in, you grab the arm, you come up into the underside of the arm with that blade. I mean, it's just something I wouldn't want done to me, and it's great for that. In a non-lethal use, this big piece that sticks out of the end that I kind of see as being bulky and almost annoying actually is a tremendous impact weapon. You almost have to get one in your hands, and you almost have to hit yourself and kind of get an idea. Man, I mean, that is almost indestructible material they made that handle out of, and I sure wouldn't want to be stabbed, cut, or hit with this knife. So as a defensive tool, it's a great tool. For those of you that are kind of like, you think you're Billy Badass and you want to have something that when you pull it out, it's impressive and intimidating, there's no doubt. I don't think you should be doing that nonsense, but there's no doubt about it. This knife fits that bill. But with a short blade and this big curve, whenever you're doing any kind of intricate work where you're actually maybe wanting to cut into something or to work on something, it just isn't a practical EDC knife for that. If you were carrying this and maybe, let's say, a neck knife that was more of your intricate work knife, that would be fine. It has, basically, this knife has looks over function. It has form over function. Everything is about looking impressive, feeling impressive, and make no mistake, that the feeling of this in your hand is absolutely beautiful. This knife feels gorgeous in your hand. Right up until the point that you say, you know what, I want to take that piece of wood and I want to cut a piece out of it, and it's just not so wonderful anymore. So it's a good knife. Now, what is it going to set you back to have one of these to carry around in your pocket? Retail on them is pretty high for what it is, 95 bucks. That's go to Cold Steel, buy it direct, and they do a good job of protecting their distributors and their reseller channel, and they do set their retail relatively high to street price. Street price, 50 to 55 bucks. Is this knife worth $55? You bet it is. If you understand the limitations and if you're going to use it as primarily a defensive tool, or if you just want it because you think it's cool and you buy things because you like them, that's fine. If you want a knife that you're going to pull out typically to do the things that people do with knives every day and additionally rely on for a self-defense tool, I think there's better choices out there, even some from Cold Steel themselves. But overall, nice knife, legal for carry in most areas. The blade, I don't remember the exact dimensions of the blade, but I think it's just under 5 inches, 4 3/4 or something like that. So it's a large blade without going past that 5.5 or 6 inch length that some states have, where they don't allow you to carry them. Again, the handle material, I don't remember what they call this stuff, but it's a type of plastic, a very strong type of plastic. The lock is absolutely amazing. There is no play in that lock. And if you go to Cold Steel's website, you'll see them hang some ungodly amount of weight off of this knife and let it hang and swing. I have no doubt that this lock will hold up to anything I would do to the knife. It is not a good one-handed opener. It is designed to be opened from the pocket the way I showed you at the beginning. It can be, if you start it and you flick it, it can open lightning fast. But it doesn't have one of those where you can just kind of grab your thumb and do that. It's going to take some level of, outward motion. You don't always have the opportunity to make that outward motion. So if you're going to rely on this as a defensive tool, you need to practice that pocket draw. That works beautifully. Overall, good knife. Just I'm carrying it to see how I like it, but the more I carry it, the more I think I would not have bought this knife a second time for myself. Again, if you want a 100% defensive tool, hard to argue with it. If you want a knife to use on a daily basis, I think you'll find that something with a straight edge is going to be a lot more practical.